Dr. Kim Hana pressed her face against the cold window of the space station. Far below, the planet Kepler 442c spun slowly in the darkness. Its surface looked peaceful from up here. Green forests covered most of the land, and blue oceans sparkled under the light of two small suns. But Hana knew that looks could be wrong. Still thinking about going down there, Captain Pak Minho walked up behind her. His voice was tired. He had been dealing with angry aliens all day. Someone has to study them properly, Hana said. She did not turn away from the window. We can't just write them off as monsters, Minho sighed. 3 Rigelians are still in the medical bay. One of them lost an arm. The Centaurians want to put a wall around the whole planet. Even the Void Singers ran away, and those guys aren't scared of anything. Hana finally turned around. The space station's main hall was busy with aliens from different worlds. Most of them looked worried. Some looked angry. A few looked scared. In the past week, 5 different species had tried to make contact with the creatures on the planet below. All of them had failed badly. The creatures lived in the forest near the planet's north pole. From space, they looked like large wolves, but the first team that got close said they were nothing like Earth animals. They had 6 legs instead of 4. Sharp spines grew from their backs like crystal needles. Bright patches on their skin could glow in the dark. And their eyes. Everyone who saw them said the eyes were the worst part. They're not just animals, said Telvar, the Centaurian diplomat. His blue skin was darker than usual, which meant he was upset. These creatures are smart. They plan their attacks. They work together. And they seem to enjoy hurting others. Hana had read all the reports. The first contact team from Rigel had landed near a small group of the creatures. The team had weapons, but they came in peace. They tried to communicate using standard galactic greeting signals. The creatures had watched them for a few minutes. Then they attacked. The attack was not wild or crazy. It was organized. Some creatures came from the front while others circled around the sides. They used their crystal spines like arrows, shooting them at the visitors. Their claws could cut through metal. Within minutes, the Rigelian team was running back to their ship. Maybe they were defending their territory, Hana suggested. She had seen this kind of behavior in Earth animals. That's what we thought too, said Dr. Cho Yuna, the station's psychologist. She was reading from a datapad. So the Draconian team tried landing far away from any creatures. They set up camp in an empty field. The creatures found them anyway. It was like they were hunting. Hana frowned. Hunting was different from defending. Animals that hunted visitors were much more dangerous. The Void Singers had tried next. They were energy beings who could take different shapes. Most physical creatures could not hurt them, but when they got near the planet's surface, something made them flee in terror. They would not say what they had seen. They only said that the creatures were wrong in some way that hurt to look at. I've been studying the video footage, Hana said. There's something we're missing. What kind of something? Minho asked. Hana pulled out her own datapad. She showed them a video from the Rigelian encounter. In the recording, 3 of the creatures stood at the edge of a forest. They were about 4 feet tall, much smaller than the adults. Their crystal spines were shorter and duller. The bright patches on their skin pulsed with soft colors. Look at this one. Hana pointed to the creature in the middle. Watch how it moves. On the screen, the creature tilted its head to one side. Then it took a step forward, stopped, and took a step back. Its ears, or what looked like ears, moved up and down, so Telvar crossed his forearms. It's getting ready to attack. Or it's curious, Hana said. Look at the body language. It's not crouched low like a hunter. It's standing tall. And see how its tail moves? That's not aggression. That's interest. Yuna looked closer at the screen. The reports all say these creatures' eyes are terrifying. But in this video, they don't look mean. They look confused, Hana nodded. What if we're the ones who are confused? What if these creatures aren't trying to hurt anyone? Tell that to the Rigelians in the medical bay, Minho said. I'm not saying they're harmless, Hana explained. I'm saying maybe they're not evil. Maybe they're just scared. Or maybe they don't understand what we want. The discussion was interrupted by an alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A voice spoke over the communication system. All personnel to stations. We have a diplomatic emergency. In the main meeting room, representatives from 12 different species sat around a large table. At the head of the table was Elder Thexmos, an ancient celestial who served as the mission's senior advisor. His silver skin was wrinkled with age, and his 3 eyes glowed with wisdom. The Galactic Council has made a decision, Elder Thexmos announced. Planet Kepler 442c is to be classified as a prohibited zone. No one may land on its surface. No one may attempt further contact with the hostile species. Several aliens around the table nodded in agreement. The aquatic representative, Ambassador Rildan, made bubbling sounds that meant finally. The insectoid security chief, Zeftol, clicked his mandibles with satisfaction. What about scientific study? Hana stood up from her seat at the back of the room. We've barely begun to understand these creatures. Dr. Kim, Elder Thexmos, turned his 3 eyes toward her. 5 separate contact attempts have resulted in injury or trauma. The creatures show no interest in peaceful communication. They appear to view all other species as enemies or prey. But we don't know why, Hana insisted. Give me one chance. Let me try a different approach. Absolutely not, said Commander Veltar, the Draconian military leader. His scales were bright red with anger. These creatures are too dangerous. They should be contained or eliminated. Eliminated? Hana's voice rose. We're talking about an entire species. A species that might be intelligent. We can't just decide to destroy them because we don't understand them. The decision is final, Elder Thexmos said. All research teams will return to their home worlds within 48 hours. This station will be moved to a safe distance. Robot probes will monitor the planet from space. The meeting ended quickly after that. Aliens began filing out of the room, talking in low voices about travel arrangements and final reports. Hana stayed in her seat, staring at the table. You can't change their minds, Yuna said softly. She had stayed behind too. Too many people got hurt. Those creatures down there might be the most important discovery in galactic history, Hana said. And we're giving up because they look scary and we don't understand their behavior. Sometimes giving up is the smart thing to do, Minho said. He had also stayed. Sometimes the risk is too high. Hana looked at her 2 friends. They meant well, but they did not understand. All her life she had studied animals that other people feared or hated. Sharks, spiders, snakes, creatures that looked dangerous but were just trying to survive. She had learned that the most important discoveries often came from the most frightening subjects. I'm going down there, she said quietly. Hana, no. Yuna grabbed her arm. It's too dangerous. And it's against orders. Orders from people who are too scared to try, Hana said. Those creatures deserve a chance. And maybe, just maybe, they're not the monsters everyone thinks they are. That night, Hana lay in her small room on the space station. Through her window, she could see the planet below. Somewhere down there, in the crystal forests and glowing meadows, lived creatures that might hold the key to understanding intelligence itself, or they might be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Tomorrow, the station would begin its journey away from Kepler 442c. In a few days, the planet would be just another restricted world on the galactic maps. The creatures would be left alone, and the galaxy would never know what they truly were, unless someone was brave enough to find out. Hana closed her eyes and began planning her unauthorized mission to the surface. The maintenance shuttle bay was quiet at 3 in the morning. Most of the space station's crew was asleep, and the few who were awake were busy with their duties in other sections. Hana moved through the shadows between the small repair ships, carrying a bag of supplies. You're really doing this, said Lee Jun. He had been waiting for her near Shuttle Bay 7. As the station's chief maintenance engineer, he had access to all the small ships. He also had the codes to disable their tracking systems. I have to, Hana whispered. Someone needs to try a different approach. Jun shook his head, but he was already opening the shuttle's door. If you get eaten by those things, I'm going to be very angry with you. If I get eaten, you'll probably never see me again to be angry, Hana said. She tried to make it sound like a joke, but her hands were shaking as she climbed into the pilot's seat. The shuttle was small and old, designed for quick trips between the station and nearby ships. It was not built for planetary landing, but June had made some modifications. Extra fuel cells, stronger landing gear, and better shields. It would get her down to the surface and back up again. Probably. Remember, June said as he closed the shuttle door. You have 6 hours before the tracking system comes back online. After that, everyone will know where you are. 6 hours should be enough, Hana said. She hoped that was true. The shuttle slipped out of the bay like a shadow. Hana kept the engines on low power so the sensors would not notice her leaving. It took almost an hour to reach the planet's atmosphere, moving slowly and carefully. As she descended through the clouds, Hana could see the crystal forests spread out below her. They were beautiful in a strange way. The trees were not really trees at all, but tall structures made of some kind of living mineral. They grew in spirals and curves, catching the light of the two suns and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. She landed in a small clearing about 2 miles from where the Regelian team had been attacked. The shuttle's sensors showed no large lifeforms nearby, but Hana knew that did not mean she was safe. The creatures might be hiding, or the sensors might not be able to detect them properly. The planet's air was breathable for humans, though it smelled strange, like flowers and electricity mixed together. Hana put on a light exploration suit anyway. Better to be safe. She had planned to set up a small camp and wait for the creatures to find her. That way she could observe them from a distance and try to understand their behavior. But as soon as she stepped out of the shuttle, she realized her plan would not work. Something was watching her. She could not see it at first. The crystal trees made strange shadows, and the light from the two suns created confusing patterns. But there was definitely something moving in the forest. Something big enough to be one of the creatures. Hana's heart started beating faster. Every other team that had encountered these creatures had been attacked within minutes. She was alone with no backup and no weapons except a small stunner that probably would not work on alien biology. But she did not run. Instead, she sat down on the ground near her shuttle and took out her research equipment. A camera, a sound recorder, and a scanner that could detect electromagnetic fields. If she was going to die, at least she would gather some data first. The watching presence moved closer. Hana could hear branches breaking in the forest. Heavy footsteps on the crystal ground. A low sound that might have been breathing or might have been something else entirely. Then it stepped out of the forest. Hana's first thought was that the other teams had been right to run. The creature was terrifying. It stood about 4 feet tall on 6 powerful legs. Crystal spines covered its back, each one sharp enough to cut metal. Its skin was dark purple with patches that glowed bright blue. And its eyes. The eyes were large and silver, with pupils that seemed to shift and change shape. They were alien eyes, nothing like any Earth animal. Looking into them was like looking into a deep, dark hole in space, but Hana did not run. She forced herself to stay calm and observe. The creature was not attacking. It was just standing there about 20 feet away, watching her. Its head was tilted to one side, and its ears, she was now sure they were ears and were pointed forward. "Hello," Hana said softly. She spoke in Korean without thinking. "안녕하세요." The creature's ears twitched. It took a step forward, then stopped. Its glowing patches changed from blue to green, then back to blue again. Hana noticed something that made her heart skip. The creature was young. She could tell by its size and the way it moved. This was not an adult hunter. This was a juvenile, probably curious about the strange visitor. "You're just a baby, aren't you?" she said, still speaking Korean. "Yebanagya." Pretty baby, the creature tilted its head the other way. Its tail, which had been held stiff and high, relaxed and began to move back and forth. Just a little bit like a dog that was not sure if it should be happy or scared. More sounds came from the forest. The young creature looked back toward the trees and made a series of chirping noises. It sounded almost like it was calling to someone. Other creatures began to emerge from the forest. More juveniles, Hana realized. They were all about the same size as the first one, with shorter spines and brighter colors. One was bright yellow with orange patches. Another was deep red with silver spots. A third was almost white, with patches that shifted through all the colors of the rainbow. Within a few minutes, Hana was surrounded by 12 young creatures. They formed a loose circle around her, but they did not seem threatening. They looked curious. Some of them were making soft chirping sounds to each other. Others were sniffing the air, trying to figure out what she was. Hana slowly reached into her pack and took out her lunch. A sandwich and some dried fruit from Earth. She was not hungry, but she thought the creatures might be interested in seeing what she ate. The white creature with rainbow patches crept closer. Its nose, or what looked like a nose, twitched as it smelled the food. Hana tore off a small piece of bread and held it out. The creature stretched its neck forward, but it did not take the food. Instead, it gently touched Hana's hand with its nose. The touch was warm and slightly electric, like touching a battery that was almost dead. "Kure kaganagia," Hana said softly. "Yes, good baby." The creature made a sound that might have been pleasure, a low humming noise that seemed to come from deep in its chest. The other creatures heard it and moved closer. Soon, Hana was sitting in the middle of a group of alien juveniles who were acting exactly like curious puppies. They sniffed her equipment, pawed gently at her clothes, and made soft sounds when she spoke to them. One of them, a bright green one with blue spines, actually tried to climb into her lap. "You're not monsters at all," Hana said in wonder. "You're just kids. Baby animals playing in the forest." But even as she said it, she knew there was more to it than that. These creatures were intelligent. She could see it in their eyes, in the way they communicated with each other, in the way they examined her equipment with obvious understanding. The yellow creature with orange patches had found her camera. She was holding the device carefully in its front paws, turning it over and looking at it from different angles. When Hana reached out slowly, the creature gave the camera back to her without any fuss. "Smart babies," Hana corrected herself. "Very smart babies." She activated the camera and took a few pictures. The creatures did not seem afraid of the device. In fact, they seemed interested in it. When the camera made its focusing sound, several of them made similar sounds back to it. Hana was so fascinated by their behavior that she almost forgot about time. It was only when her communicator beeped with a low battery warning that she remembered she had been on the planet for almost 5 hours. She needed to get back to the shuttle soon, or June's modifications would not hide her location anymore. But she did not want to leave. These creatures were nothing like the reports had described. They were not vicious or hostile. They were playful and curious and obviously intelligent. As she started to pack her equipment, the creatures seemed to understand that she was leaving. They gathered around her more closely, making sounds that seemed sad or worried. "I have to go," she told them in Korean. "But maybe I can come back. Maybe we can be friends." The white creature with rainbow patches touched her hand again. This time it held on for a moment longer, and Hana felt a strange sensation, like a warm feeling in her mind, a sense of friendship and safety. Then alarms started blaring from her shuttle. The station's sensors had found her. Within minutes, security ships would be on their way to rescue her from the hostile creatures. Hana looked at the innocent faces around her and felt sick. These beings were about to be labeled as monsters again, simply because other species could not see past their frightening appearance. "I won't let them hurt you," she promised the creatures. "Somehow I'll make them understand." But as she ran toward her shuttle, she wondered if it was already too late. The galaxy had made up its mind about these creatures, and changing the galaxy's mind was much harder than making friends with alien babies. The security ships arrived like a storm of metal and light. 3 heavily armed vessels descended from the sky, their engines roaring and their weapons charged. Hana was still 20 feet from her shuttle when the first ship landed, sending crystal dust flying in all directions. The young creatures scattered at the noise and chaos, but they did not go far. Hana could see them hiding behind the crystal trees, their glowing patches dim with fear. They were watching, waiting to see what would happen to their new friend. Security forces poured out of the ships. Zeftol, the insectoid security chief, led the group. His 6 legs moved quickly across the crystal ground, and his compound eyes scanned for threats. Behind him came a squad of draconian soldiers in full battle armor, led by Commander Veltar. Their scales were bright red with battle excitement, and their claws were extended. "Dr. Kim," Zeftol's voice came through his suit's speaker. "Step away from the creatures immediately. You are in extreme danger." Hana turned to face them, keeping her hands visible and empty. "I'm not in danger. These creatures are peaceful. They're just curious juveniles." "Peaceful?" Commander Veltar's laugh was like the sound of grinding metal. "Tell that to the Rigelians in the medical bay. These monsters attacked without provocation." "Because you approached them wrong," Hana said. She kept her voice calm even though her heart was racing. "You came in armed groups acting like invaders. Of course they defended themselves." More movement in the crystal forest caught her attention. The adult creatures were coming. She could see them moving between the trees, large shadows that glided silently through the strange, twisted branches. They were much bigger than the juveniles, and they moved with the grace of natural predators. The security forces saw them too. Weapons were raised and aimed at the forest. Energy charges hummed as the soldiers prepared to fire. "Stand down," Hana shouted. "Don't shoot unless they attack first." "They will attack," Zeftol said. His mandibles clicked nervously. "It's what they do. It's all they do." But the adult creatures did not attack. Instead, they emerged from the forest slowly, their movements careful and controlled. There were 6 of them, each one standing nearly 8 feet tall on powerful legs. Their crystal spines were longer and sharper than the juveniles, and their eyes glowed like amber stars in the dim light. The largest one stepped forward. This was clearly the leader, an ancient female with scars across her dark skin and patches that pulsed with deep, steady colors. She looked at the armed soldiers for a moment, then turned her attention to Hana. When their eyes met, Hana felt something she had never experienced before. It was like looking into the eyes of a creature that was completely alien, yet somehow familiar. There was intelligence there, and wisdom, and something that might have been sadness. The pack mother, for that was clearly what she was, made a series of low musical sounds. They were unlike anything in Hana's experience. Too complex to be animal calls, but too strange to be any known language. Yet somehow Hana felt she understood the meaning behind them. The creature was asking a question, something like, why do the metal wearers come with weapons to harm the young ones? She's trying to communicate, Hana said to the security team. Can you hear it? Those aren't random sounds. She's using language. All I hear is monster noise, Commander Veltar said. His weapon was still pointed at the pack mother's chest. Step away from it, Dr. Kim. We're taking you back to the station. But Hana did not move. Instead, she did something that made every alien in the security team freeze with shock. She knelt down on the crystal ground, making herself smaller and less threatening. Then she began to speak in Korean, using the same gentle tone she had used with the juveniles. 안녕하세요, 에오메오니, she said. Hello, mother. 저는 친구입니다. 저는 아이들을 해치지 않습니다. I am a friend. I will not hurt the children. The pack mother's eyes widened. Her head tilted to one side, exactly the way the juveniles had done. She made another series of musical sounds, and this time Hana was sure she could hear the pattern of a question in them. She understands, Hana said in wonder. She knows I'm trying to communicate. She's responding to the tone of my voice. The way I'm positioning my body, she recognizes peaceful intent. Impossible, Zeftal said. Our xenolinguists have analyzed their sounds. There's no grammatical structure, no syntax. It's just animal noise. But even as he spoke, more creatures were emerging from the forest, a full pack of adults, all of them moving with the same careful, controlled movements. They arranged themselves in a defensive formation around the juveniles, but they made no aggressive moves toward the security team. Dr. Nam Hyun's voice crackled through Hana's communicator. He was monitoring from the space station above. Hana, I'm picking up electromagnetic patterns from the creatures. Complex, organized patterns. I think they're using some kind of bioelectric communication in addition to their vocalizations. That would explain why the universal translators don't work on them, Hana said. They're not just using sound. They're using electrical fields that other species can't detect. The pack mother took a step closer to Hana. Several soldiers raised their weapons higher, but Commander Veltar held up a clawed hand to stop them. The ancient creature looked down at the small human kneeling in the crystal dust, and something passed between them. A moment of understanding that crossed the vast gap between species. Then one of the younger soldiers made a mistake. A juvenile creature had crept closer to investigate the strange metal ships. It was the same white one with rainbow patches that had touched Hana's hand earlier. Its curiosity overcame its fear, and it approached one of the security shuttles, sniffing at the landing gear. The soldier, a young draconian barely out of training, saw the creature's crystal spines and panicked. He fired a warning shot, intending to scare it away. But the energy blast struck the crystal ground near the juvenile's feet, and shards of sharp mineral exploded upward. One of the shards cut across the juvenile's front leg. It was not a serious wound, but the creature cried out in pain and fear. The sound was like nothing Hana had ever heard, a mixture of a child's scream and the call of a wounded bird. The effect on the adult creatures was immediate and terrifying. The pack mother roared. The sound was so deep and powerful that it seemed to come from the planet itself. It bypassed all language and communication and spoke directly to the most primitive parts of the brain. It said threat and danger and protect the young in a voice that made every alien in the security team take a step backward. The other adults took up the call. 6 voices joined together in a harmony of fury that made the crystal trees ring like bells. The juveniles fled back into the forest, crying out in their own voices. Defensive positions, Commander Veltar shouted. Prepare to fire. But Hana was already moving. She ran toward the wounded juvenile, ignoring the weapons pointed in her direction and the roaring adults that could tear her apart in seconds. The young creature was lying on its side, blue blood seeping from the cut on its leg. "Apuji ma sojonganagia," Hana said as she knelt beside the injured creature. "Don't hurt, precious baby. Eomaga dawajilji. Mama will help you." She pulled medical supplies from her pack and began cleaning the wound. The juvenile whimpered but did not try to pull away. Its rainbow patches flickered with patterns that looked like gratitude. The adult creatures stopped roaring. They watched in silence as the small human tended to their wounded young. The pack mother stepped closer, her massive head lowering until she was only a few feet from Hana. "I'm not going to hurt him," Hana said, speaking to the pack mother in Korean. "저는 치료사입니다. 저는 아이들을 사랑합니다. I am a healer. I love children." The ancient creature's eyes studied Hana's face. Then slowly, she lowered herself to the ground next to them. She made soft, musical sounds to the wounded juvenile, sounds that were clearly meant to comfort and reassure. "By the void," whispered one of the soldiers. "It's not attacking. The monster is helping her." "They're not monsters," Hana said firmly. She finished bandaging the juvenile's wound and helped it stand up. The young creature nuzzled against her hand, then limped over to its mother. "They're a family. They were protecting their children, just like any parent would." The pack mother looked at Hana for a long moment. Then she did something that made every alien in the security team question everything they thought they knew about these creatures. She bowed her head. It was a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of acknowledgement. A gesture that said, "Thank you for helping my child," in a language that needed no translation. But the moment of understanding was shattered by the sound of approaching engines. More ships were coming from the space station. And this time, they were not just security vessels. Elder Thexmos was coming personally along with representatives from the Galactic Council. And Hana knew that when they saw the creatures surrounding her, when they heard about the attack on the security team, there would be no more chances for peaceful contact. The pack mother seemed to understand this too. She rose to her full height and made a series of complex sounds to the other adults. They began to move back toward the forest, gathering their young, but they did not go far. Just to the edge of the trees where they could watch and wait. "They're not leaving," Commander Veltar said. His voice was tense. "They're taking up defensive positions. They're preparing for war." Hana looked at the creatures at the forest's edge, then at the ships approaching from the Galactic Council descended like a metal cloud. Elder Thexmos arrived in a massive diplomatic vessel, followed by armed cruisers from 3 different species. The crystal clearing became crowded with aliens, weapons, and the growing tension of a first contact situation gone very wrong. Hana remained kneeling beside the wounded juvenile, one hand resting gently on its head. The young creature had stopped whimpering, but its rainbow patches still flickered with stress patterns. Around the edges of the clearing, the adult creatures watched from the shadows of the crystal forest. Elder Thexmos emerged from his ship with 2 of his 3 eyes focused on Hana, and 1 scanning the forest for threats. His ancient silver skin was darker than usual, showing his concern. Behind him came Ambassador Rieldan in a water-filled suit that let him breathe on land, and several other high-ranking officials from the council. "Dr. Kim," Elder Thexmos said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, "you will move away from the creature immediately. You are in violation of direct orders and placing yourself in unnecessary danger." "The only danger here comes from misunderstanding," Hana replied. She did not move from her position. "These creatures are not hostile. They're defensive parents protecting their young." "Defensive?" Commander Veltar gestured toward the forest with his weapon. "There are at least 12 adult creatures surrounding us. They could attack at any moment." Dr. Song Kira's shuttle landed at the edge of the clearing. The station's veterinarian had ignored orders and followed the security team down to the planet. She carried a medical bag and moved quickly toward Hana and the wounded juvenile. "Dr. Song, you are also in violation of orders," Elder Thexmos said sternly. "A wounded animal needs medical attention," Kira replied. She knelt beside Hana and examined the juvenile's bandaged leg. "Orders don't override medical ethics." The young creature allowed Kira to touch its wound, though its patches flashed nervously. It seemed to understand that both humans were trying to help. From the forest came a new sound. Not the terrifying roar from before, but something else. a complex melody that rose and fell like music. Other voices joined in, creating a harmony that made the crystal trees vibrate like bells. Dr. Nam, are you getting this? Hana spoke into her communicator. Dr. Nam Hyun's excited voice crackled back from the space station. I'm recording everything. Hana, this is incredible. The electromagnetic patterns are even more complex than before. It's definitely language, but it's unlike anything in the galactic database. Translation? Elder Thexmos demanded. Working on it, Nam replied. But I think they're trying to communicate with the humans specifically. The patterns change when Dr. Kim or Dr. Song speaks. Ambassador Ryaldan bubbled nervously in his water suit. Perhaps they see humans as easier prey, smaller, weaker, less threatening. Or maybe they see us differently for other reasons, Hana suggested. She spoke gently to the juvenile in Korean, and its patches shifted to calmer colors. Maybe they recognize something in us that other species don't have. The pack mother emerged from the forest again. This time she was not alone. Behind her came the largest creature anyone had yet seen, an ancient male whose crystal spines were nearly as tall as Hana herself. His skin was deep black with silver markings that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. His eyes were the color of starlight. The Elder Alpha. Kira breathed. He must be the leader of the entire pack. The Elder Alpha was clearly very old. His movements were slower than the others and several of his spines were cracked or broken, but there was no question about his authority. The other adult creatures arranged themselves in a circle around him, showing respect and deference. The ancient creature studied the scene before him with intelligent eyes. He looked at the armed aliens, at their weapons and ships, at the wounded juvenile, and finally at the two human women who knelt beside his young. Then he began to sing. It was not the roaring from before, or the complex melodies. This was something simpler and more profound. A single pure note that seemed to come from the heart of the planet itself. The sound wrapped around everyone in the clearing, alien and human alike, and for a moment the language barriers disappeared. Hana felt tears on her cheeks without knowing why. The song spoke of ages beyond counting, of watching stars be born and die, of waiting through the long loneliness for someone who could understand. It was the most beautiful and saddest thing she had ever heard. When the song ended, the Elder Alpha stepped forward. The armed soldiers raised their weapons, but he ignored them completely. His attention was focused entirely on Hana. He lowered his massive head until his eyes were level with hers. This close, she could see that his starlight eyes were not empty alien orbs. They held intelligence, wisdom, and something that looked very much like hope. Annyeonghaseyo halabeoji, Hana said softly. Hello, grandfather. The Elder Alpha's eyes widened slightly. He made a sound, not quite a word, but an attempt to copy the rhythm and tone of what Hana had said. It came out as a musical phrase that somehow conveyed the same meaning. Extraordinary, breathed Elder Thexmos. It's attempting to communicate in the human language pattern. Dr. Nam's voice burst through the communicator with excitement. I've got partial translation. The bioelectric patterns are becoming clearer. I think they're saying something like small pack friend from the star paths and healer of the young ones. Pack friend? Ambassador Rildan's bubbles increased in frequency. They think the humans are part of their pack? Not part of their pack, Hana realized. They think we're a pack ourselves. A small, weak pack that needs protection. The Elder Alpha straightened and made a series of complex sounds. This time Dr. Nam's translation came faster. He's asking why the metal shell people brought painmakers to a meeting with the small pack friends. I think he's confused about why we came with weapons if we wanted to communicate. Commander Veltar lowered his weapon slightly. They think we're here to hurt the humans? More sounds came from the Elder Alpha and the translation followed. The metal shells have hurt the Star Pathwalkers before. They come with fear scent and death tools, but the small pack friends come with healing touch and calm songs. Star Pathwalkers, Hana repeated. They have names for different species, and they've been watching galactic civilization for a long time. The pack mother moved to stand beside the Elder Alpha. She made her own series of sounds, which Nam translated as, the small pack friends see the young ones as precious things, not threat things. They heal instead of harm. They sing calm songs instead of fear sounds. They're trying to tell us something important, Kira said. She had finished treating the juvenile's wound, and the young creature was now standing steadily on all 6 legs. They've encountered other galactic species before, and those encounters didn't go well. but their experience with humans has been different. Elder Thexmos stepped forward carefully, his 3 eyes focusing on the Elder Alpha. With respect, Ancient One, how can we trust your intentions? Your kind has attacked our people without provocation. The translation came back as a long, complex statement that took Nam several moments to decode. The pack protects the young ones from those who come with fear scent and death tools. The metal shells see the young ones as threat things and bring harm makers. The pack shows the metal shells their own fear scent. But the small pack friends bring healing touch and see the young ones as precious things. The pack shows the small pack friends welcome songs. They're saying they respond to how we approach them, Hana explained. If we come in fear with weapons, they defend themselves. If we come in peace with healing, they welcome us. But why? Elder Thexmos asked. What makes humans different? The Elder Alpha seemed to understand the question even before it was translated. He looked at Hana for a long moment, then made a sound that was simpler than the others. Almost like a human word, kindness, Nam translated, his voice full of wonder. He said kindness. But the bioelectric pattern is more complex than that. It's kindness combined with courage, empathy, the willingness to help the weak instead of dominating them. The juvenile that Hana and Kira had treated limped over to where the humans knelt. It nuzzled against Hana's hand, then did the same to Kira. Its patches glowed with soft, happy colors. They recognize something in human behavior that other species don't show, Kira said. The instinct to care for young that aren't even our own species. The Elder Alpha made another complex statement. This time the translation took Nam even longer to work out. The small pack friends are young in the star paths, but they carry old wisdom in their hearts. They see beyond fear shapes to the truth underneath. The pack has waited through many star turnings for such ones to walk the star paths. They've been waiting for us, Hana whispered. Not humans specifically, but a species that could see past their appearance to their true nature. But the moment of revelation was interrupted by alarms from the orbiting ships. More vessels were approaching, this time from outside the system. The distinctive energy signatures belonged to the Draconian High Command. The High Command received our distress signal, Commander Veltar reported, his scales shifting to worried colors. They're sending a full battle fleet. If they see creatures surrounding... The Draconian battle fleet filled the sky like a cloud of angry metal. 12 warships descended through the atmosphere, their weapons powered and ready. Behind them came the massive command vessel of the High Command, bristling with enough firepower to level a city. On the planet's surface, the tension was thick enough to cut. The Elder Alpha and his pack had not retreated further into the forest. Instead, they had formed a protective circle around the clearing where the humans and council representatives stood. It was clear they intended to shield the smaller beings from whatever threat was coming from the sky. "This is Admiral Krendor of the Draconian High Command," a voice boomed from the descending ships. "All personnel will evacuate immediately. This planet is being classified as a hostile zone." Elder Thexmos activated his own communicator. "Admiral, this is Elder Thexmos of the Galactic Council. We are conducting delicate first contact negotiations. Do not take aggressive action." "Negotiations?" Admiral Krendor's laugh was like the sound of breaking rocks. "My sensors show hostile creatures surrounding council representatives. This is clearly a hostage situation." Hana looked up at the ships, then at the creatures watching from the forest. The Alpha Pack was tense but not aggressive. They kept looking between the sky and the humans as if trying to decide how to protect their new friends from the obvious threat above. "Dr. Nam," Hana spoke into her communicator.
"Can you translate for me?"
"I need to speak to the Elder Alpha." "Ready," came Nam's voice from the orbiting station. Hana turned to face the ancient creature. "Please tell him that more metal shells are coming. Ones with bigger death tools. They think we're in danger and they want to protect us. But if they see the pack, they'll attack." Nam translated, and the Elder Alpha's response came back quickly. "The pack knows." "The pack has seen this before with other Starpath walkers. The metal shells always bring fear and death tools." "But it doesn't have to be that way," Hana insisted. "Tell him that some of us can make the other metal shells understand. But we need his help." The Elder Alpha studied her for a long moment. Then he made a decision that surprised everyone. He began to walk toward the center of the clearing, making musical sounds as he moved. "What's he saying?" Elder Thexmos asked urgently. "He's calling his pack," Nam translated. "He's telling them to come forward. All of them." That's the worst possible thing he could do, Commander Veltar said. The Admiral will see it as an attack formation. But Hana understood. No, he's showing trust. He's bringing his family out into the open because he believes we can protect them from the fear and misunderstanding. One by one, the adult creatures emerged from the crystal forest. The pack mother came first, followed by the other adults. Then came the juveniles, including the white one with rainbow patches that Hana had first befriended. Soon nearly 30 creatures stood in the clearing, from the ancient elder alpha down to babies barely bigger than house cats. By the void, whispered Ambassador Ryaldan. It's an entire extended family. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The creatures arranged themselves not in battle formation, but in family groups, parents with their children, elders watching over the young, siblings playing together despite the tension. Their crystal spines caught the light of the two suns, and their bioluminescent patches created a rainbow of soft colors. Admiral Krendor, Elder Thexmos spoke into his communicator again. What you are seeing is not a hostile force. These are families. They have children with them. Irrelevant, the Admiral's voice crackled back. Hostile species often use their young as shields. All personnel will evacuate in 60 seconds or we will begin bombardment. Dr. Park Su's shuttle landed at the edge of the clearing. The human anthropologist had been monitoring the situation from the station and had come down without permission, just as Kira had done. He carried recording equipment and looked excited despite the danger. Dr. Park, you need to leave immediately, Elder Thexmos said. No time for that, Park replied. He was already setting up his equipment. Dr. Nam, I need you to record everything. If this goes wrong, we need documentation of what really happened here. The countdown from the Draconian fleet continued. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. Hana made a desperate decision. She walked to the center of the clearing and sat down on the crystal ground. Then she began to speak, not to the aliens around her, but to the recording devices that would carry her words to the galaxy. My name is Dr. Kim Hana, she said in clear, simple Korean. I am a human xenobiologist and I am sitting among creatures that have been labeled as monsters by the Galactic Council. But they are not monsters. They are families. The juvenile with rainbow patches approached her and lay down beside her, its head resting against her leg. Other young creatures came closer, drawn by her calm voice and gentle manner. The creatures around me are called alpha cubs by our scientists, Hana continued. But that name makes them sound like weapons. They are not weapons. They are children. Beautiful, intelligent children with parents who love them and protect them. Kira and Park joined her in the center of the clearing. Soon all 4 humans were sitting peacefully among the alien creatures, creating a scene that would be impossible to mistake for a hostage situation. The Elder Alpha approached them slowly. He lowered his massive head until he was eye level with Hana, and made a series of gentle sounds. He says thank you. Nam translated from orbit. Thank you for seeing the truth. Thank you for showing courage when others showed fear. 10 seconds, Admiral Krendor announced. Admiral, wait. Captain Pak Minho's voice suddenly broke into the communication channel. I'm transmitting live video feed from the surface. Look at what you're about to destroy. The countdown stopped. On screens throughout the Draconian fleet, soldiers and commanders watched the impossible scene below. 4 humans sitting peacefully in a family group of alien creatures. Adult creatures protectively surrounding their young. Babies playing with the strange visitors from the stars. What is this? Admiral Krendor's voice was confused now, not angry. This is first contact done right, Hana said, speaking directly to the fleet above. These creatures are not our enemies. They are not anyone's enemies. They are parents and children and grandparents who have been waiting for someone to see them as they really are. The pack mother approached the group of humans. She made soft, musical sounds to her cubs, and several of them came forward to investigate the visitors. One brave youngster, barely bigger than a puppy, climbed into Dr. Park's lap and began purring like a contented cat. They're beautiful, came a whispered voice from one of the Draconian ships. Sensors. Confirm no weapons, reported another voice. No aggressive formations. These are definitely family groups. Admiral Krendor himself descended to the planet's surface in a small shuttle. The massive Draconian commander was nearly as intimidating as the adult alpha creatures, but he approached the clearing carefully, with no weapons drawn. The elder alpha watched the admiral approach. The ancient creature's starlight eyes studied the newcomer, reading body language and intent with the wisdom of ages. After a moment, he made a sound that Nam translated as, "This one brings fear scent but not death will." "This one can learn, Admiral," Hana said as Krendor reached the edge of the clearing. "Would you like to meet them properly?" For the first time in his military career, Admiral Krendor found himself speechless. He stared at the scene before him. Humans and aliens sitting together like old friends, young creatures playing without a care in the world, and the obvious intelligence and gentleness in the eyes of the adult creatures. "They're not what the report said," he admitted finally. "The reports were written by beings who approached them with fear," Elder Thexmo said. He had also moved closer to the group, his own fear fading as he watched the peaceful interaction. Dr. Kim and her team approached them with curiosity and kindness. The white juvenile with rainbow patches left Hana's side and walked slowly toward Admiral Krendor. The huge draconian instinctively took a step back, but then forced himself to hold still. The young creature sniffed at his armored boots, then looked up at his face with innocent, trusting eyes. "Hello, little one," the Admiral said softly. The creature made a happy chirping sound and nuzzled against the Admiral's leg. Several draconian soldiers who had followed their commander to the surface made sounds of amazement. "Sir," one of them said, "it's just a baby." "They're all just babies," Hana corrected gently. "Babies and parents and grandparents. A family that has been waiting a very long time for the galaxy to accept them." Dr. Nam's excited voice crackled through the communicators again. "I'm getting massive amounts of translation data. They're sharing their history with us. Hana, they've been alone for thousands of years. Their appearance frightens other species, so they've remained hidden, but they've been hoping that someday someone would see past their looks to who they really are." The Elder Alpha began to sing again. This time it was not the sad song of loneliness, but something joyful and welcoming. Other voices joined in. The Pack Mother, the other adults, even the youngsters adding their small voices to the harmony. "It's a welcome song," Nam translated, his voice thick with emotion. "They're officially welcoming humanity to their world." As the song filled the crystal clearing, more shuttles began landing.